Chapter 20 May 1974 Islamabad Part 2 Tell me, how are you? I miss you so much. I miss America so much. Are you just here for a short holiday or looking for a job? How are Auntie Paige and Uncle Victor? When did you arrive? You should have told me so I could pick you up. I don't have everything I need for meatloaf, so I hope it turns out okay. Can you hand me that dish, please? Marion bubbled with excitement at seeing Harry again. I never knew my sister could ask so many questions so fast, Harry jerked, grinning at Marion. That's because you never listen, Marion said, and blew him a kiss. I know how much she can talk, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, ever since I met her. John winked at her. When you two get together, you're just like two mischievous little monkeys. Now, I need both of you monkeys to take the dishes and silverware to the dinner table, if you don't mind. John and Harry exploded into simultaneous laughter, but obliged, picked up the pile of plates and silverware. What wind blew you here? Asked John as they set the table. Nuclear smugglers, Harry replied, with a sideways glance at John. I'm working for the CIA's Anti-nuclear Proliferation Unit now. A month ago, we arrested 2 Pakistanis for trying to board a plane to Europe with unauthorized materials. The magnetic rings they were smuggling can be used to process high-enriched uranium or plutonium, and we have reason to believe their final destination was Pakistan. He twirled a fork around his fingers, absent-mindedly. Walter Hansen. He's my contact here. A military attaché at the embassy. He's good at paperwork, but totally useless in CIA fieldwork. Things are, to put it mildly, getting out of hand. John set another plate on the table, remembering Hanif's words. I guess it's possible. I've been here almost 5 months, and I'm still trying to figure out where 50 kilograms of high-enriched uranium imported from America went. I suspect the Pakistanis used it for some other nuclear program we don't know about. That would explain why they want those magnetic rings. With those, they could set up a complete nuclear bomb assembly line. John sank into a chair, appalled at the implication. I reported the incident to my boss at the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission and asked them to suspend all exports of enriched uranium fuel to Pakistan until we can resolve the issue. You can try, but I don't think you'll succeed at stopping imports, Harry said, his voice low and serious. We need Pakistan to isolate China. But by doing this, we're giving up our moral high ground. Not only that, but we're indirectly acknowledging and encouraging Pakistan's nuclear proliferation activities. This is a game of balance. Marion came in with the meatloaf, and Harry quickly changed the topic. It's just a transition stop, looking for a business contact. After this, I'm flying to England to see a friend. How are you both adjusting to life in Pakistan? Not too bad. It takes some time to get used to the different culture. John glanced at Marion and back to Harry with the barest nod. I'm so glad you came to visit us. The house is so big, but we hardly ever have any guests over, she pouted, looking pointedly at John. I don't have any friends here. How long can you stay? Maybe 2 weeks. Depends how quickly I can find this business partner to import leather materials to America. John nodded. Good luck. I never knew you ran an import business, said Marion, looking at Harry. You look more like a tourist than a businessman. But I like your Hawaiian shirt. It suits you. Really? Harry said with a laugh. I'm trying to keep things fresh. Hopefully, I'll make some money while I'm at it. Marion laughed, admiration shining in her eyes. Let's see how long you stay with this job. Harry laughed again, relieved at Marion's easy acceptance of his lie.
Well, who knows?
Tomorrow, let's go for a picnic at Rawal Lake. You can hike in Magala Hills National Park, out of the city. Marion clapped her hands and bounced on her toes at the idea.
I'd love to, but for the next couple of days, I have a lot of appointments.
At a crestfallen look, Harry added,
Maybe we can go next week.
Marion beamed. I'm counting on it. John choked down his last forkful of meatloaf, quickly chasing it with a large gulp of wine to get the gritty taste out of his mouth. He refilled all the glasses on the table. It's so great to have you here, Harry, especially for Marion. She's been so bored. He smiled at her. I've promised Marion we'll go back to America at the end of June. I just better make sure I finish the job by then. Otherwise she'll leave me here all by myself. Marion laughed and took his hand in both of hers, squeezing hard. Harry took out a pack of cigarettes and a lighter, looking around the table.
Hey, you have an ashtray in this house?
John jerked a thumb over his shoulder. In the study. Should be right on the desk, he said. As Harry reached for the ashtray, he squinted in the light, filtering through the blinds. The sun was low in the sky now, casting a dusty orange glow over the horizon. Even in the glare, he noticed the black Toyota parked across the road, its door open, a shadowed figure just visible inside.
That's odd,
he muttered.
The driver was there when I came in earlier.
His watch showed 7:15. Why would anyone sit in a car for nearly 3 hours on such a hot afternoon? He closed his eyes, trying hard to recall the memory. When his taxi dropped him off, he'd scanned the street, looking at the house numbers. The man in the car turned his head away as soon as their eyes met. Uneasiness prickled at the edge of Harry's consciousness. Why would he do that? Most Pakistanis love to stare at foreigners, to the point of rudeness. Are Marion and John being watched? Harry turned and hurried back to the table.
John, do you recognize the black Toyota just outside your gate?
John went to the window and peered out. It's our neighbor's car. He moved in across the street just a week after we moved in.
What does he do?
John shrugged. He works for some government organization, I think. I don't know, really. We don't talk much, but he seems like a good guy.
Government officials don't usually have cars,
Harry said, keeping his tone casual.
Most of them can't afford it. No big deal. It just seems a bit odd. He's been sitting out there ever since I arrived.
Really? Said Marion, her mouth curling with amusement at Harry's suspicion. You're like a dog, dear brother, always trying to sniff out trouble. John watched the car and its ghostly inhabitant sitting in the dusky heat and thought about both Harry's mission and his own concerns. A small sigh escaped his lips. He was suddenly glad he wasn't the only one working on nuclear safety issues, and even more thankful for Harry's unexpected arrival. The afternoon sun beat down, as relentless as flames scorching the parched land. Although the local population carried on undisturbed, John and Harry had no choice but to surrender to the crippling heat, seeking relief in a cafe, where they each ordered a rich, strong Pakistani coffee. A young English couple next to them bent over a map, arguing about their next destination. Traditional abstract Islamic art clashed with the modern Western architecture, a bizarre synthesis of cultures that somehow suited the environment. In the heart of the Islamabad tourist district, it was the perfect spot for two Americans to talk without arousing any suspicion. John put his elbows on the small table, which rocked in protest. I understand your frustration. My first 2 months here, I achieved virtually nothing. All I did was collect and sort through information, and all too often, What I needed had been misplaced or somehow disappeared altogether. Harry listened, although his gaze lingered on the street, watching the people and thinking about his unpleasant meeting with Walter Hansen at the US Embassy. Just like 3 years ago, no Americans spoke Arabic. The government couldn't maintain any secrets because fieldwork relied solely on local informants, and CIA officers couldn't independently verify the authenticity of any information. Turning back to John, he mused. The embassy here is too arrogant. They're just not willing to acknowledge they may have misinterpreted something or missed some vital information. On top of that, the local contacts aren't always trustworthy. I feel like I'm working alone here. That does make it hard for you. I have trouble practically every day getting the Pakistanis to accept my instructions. And don't even get me started on my suspicions about their real intent. Have you heard of new labs at Rawalpindi? John shook his head. It's a processing facility. Based on what I've been able to piece together, I'm certain it was the intended destination of those missing magnet rings. But why? The nuclear facilities in Pakistan are already straining their resources badly. Why would they try to build even more? John asked, and then answered his own question moments later. They wouldn't need magnetic rings unless they were planning to build centrifuges to extract weapons-grade uranium or plutonium. You've hit the nail on the head. New Labs is currently the hottest cell in Pakistan's nuclear weapons program. All the other nuclear projects in the country are just the cover for this facility, including the research reactor I'm consulting at now. John sat back in his chair, sick with betrayal, anger, and worry. If that's true, then the US really needs to rethink our aid distribution and just concentrate on humanitarian aid. We need to pull out all our assistance for nuclear projects. Unfortunately, we don't make the policy, Harry said, swirling his coffee. And nothing's going to change unless a bomb drops on their heads. He grimaced. Literally. A sudden clamor in the street interrupted their conversation. The shoppers and tourists stopped and stared as a group of Pakistanis appeared, waving banners and shouting protests against India's nuclear tests. A boy at the front of the crowd was handing out propaganda sheets. In the middle of the intersection, the protesters formed a circle, with one man organizing their random shouts into chants of, "Protect our motherland! Nuke India!" John watched with increasing unease as they threw Indian flags and photos of government officials into the center of the circle and set the pile on fire. As the flames rose higher, the chanting became more frenzied. Were they about to witness a full-blown riot? His face dispassionate, Harry said without turning. They burn India's flag today. Soon, once Pakistan tests its own nuclear weapons, Indians will be burning the Pakistani flag too. Did the US know India was making bombs? John asked in disbelief. Harry nodded. Why didn't we do something about it? It's the old adage of, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. India is an enemy of China. To a certain degree, its stockpile of weapons deters China's military aggression. That takes some of the pressure off us, while still maintaining our influence in the region. What about our nuclear for peace policy? Harry scoffed. That's just a slogan, and a poor one at that. You, and everyone else, has the choice to act on it, or not. Clearly Pakistan has chosen a different path. What a joke. Not a joke, a game. Harry rubbed his face, as if to wipe away his fatigue. A geopolitical game, one with terrifying repercussions. So what do we do now? John searched Harry's face for an answer. Do we take the same approach as we did in India? You might as well be upfront about it and just give Pakistan everything they need to build bombs. What difference would it make?
The rules of the game are different this time. Pakistan is friendly with China, while simultaneously milking us for financial support. They don't trust us, of course, but are happy to take our aid and expertise, and we've known that from the very beginning. The purpose of the aid package is to monitor their progress. Pakistan will succeed in its nuclear ambition eventually, because Pakistan hates India to its core. And China will feel less pressure from India if Pakistan has the bomb too.
So, we have achieved nothing. Harry finished his coffee in silence. After a moment, John shook his head. I don't think we should give up. I'll keep digging to find out where the missing uranium went. Can I do anything to help you? Harry lit a cigarette.
That's probably about all you can do. New Labs is top secret. Only a handful of scientists and military officers know about it.
He let the significance of that sink in, and was gratified to see John's jaw tighten with determination. Then he raised a finger in warning, adding,
Pakistanis don't trust us. You know that. But the nuclear for peace policy is still our official position. This is a very dangerous game, John, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Do what you can, but be careful, and watch your back.
The afternoon call to prayer rang out, the chant slicing through the heat. The street emptied as the faithful hurried toward the mosque, leaving the fading protest bonfires to burn out unattended. John marveled at the power of religion, and a memory flashed across his mind. He was perhaps 10 years old, trudging behind Grandma, flowered hat pinned to her severe grey bun, Bible clutched in her white-gloved hand, on their way to church every Sunday. The suit he wore chafed at his neck. When he squirmed or made noise during the tedious, incomprehensible service, Grandma rapped his head with her bony knuckles. Unlike Grandma, his parents were less religious, although they still went to church regularly. Now he only went to church every Christmas. If only people had the same enthusiasm for nuclear disarmament as they invested in their religion, he thought, the holy mission could be achieved.